This video is brought to you by War-Torn. Stick around to the end to learn more. After years of live service failures, cancellations, and increasingly negative player sentiment, it feels like the craze for the model is finally coming to a close. That of course doesn't mean that live service games are going to go away, or that nobody is going to try to make a new one. The model has been massively successful for developers and publishers that have pulled it off, and there's clearly demand for it from audiences. I'm more than sure that the upcoming Honor of Kings World is going to be a major live service hit based on what I got to play at PAX West this year. But it's also tied to one of the biggest IPs in the world, so there's an existing audience for it. In fact, many of the upcoming free-to-play live service games originated in the mobile space outside of the Western games industry, and found massive audiences there before making the move to PC and console. But outside of already successful IPs, the pendulum seems to be very quickly swinging back towards more moderately priced and unique premium experiences, with developers having the expectation that you will play their game for a few weeks, or months, and then probably move on, as it used to be, aside from the best of the best multiplayer games. Just a few weeks ago, we got Elden Ring Night Reign, and many were surprised to hear that the game isn't a live service project, and that From Software included everything they wanted it to have at launch. According to From Software, post-launch plans are a possibility, but as of now, there's no roadmap beyond what we already got. Slowclap just dropped a rematch this week, which at first glance seems like a free-to-play game, but they also decided to go the premium route, pricing the game at $29.99 with some additional game modes and seasonal updates planned. Remedy's FBC Firebreak isn't free to play, nor do they consider it a live service game, even though over time, it will receive additional missions. That dropped on Tuesday for $40, but unfortunately hasn't reviewed very well. One of the biggest demos during Steam Next Fest was for Wildgate, the first game from Moonshot Games. I had an absolute blast with this one, and it quickly jumped up my list of most anticipated games of the year. Wildgate is a PvP game where you and a crew of your friends pilot spaceships searching for an artifact. Matches have you fending off other players' ships, exploring locations with different objectives to find gear to upgrade your ship, and then either escaping with the artifact or destroying all the other ships. The planned release date for that is July 22nd as a $30 premium title. For the more dedicated community members, most of these games will have some cosmetic microtransactions or battle passes to support the game post-launch, but with free content updates to keep existing players engaged and new players coming in. The leaders of the free-to-play live service model have, for the most part, enshrined their places in players' libraries just like the MMO genre before it. In 2025, there are more options than ever for people to sink their time and money into, and once you're locked into a well-supported live service game, it's hard to find time for many others. Rainbow Six Siege launched 10 years ago, and I'm still playing it to this day. And no other live service FPS has managed to break me away from it. I've put thousands of hours into the game, updates are frequent enough to keep it fresh, and my friends all still play with me. I imagine most people playing a live service game for an extended period of time would have similar things to say about it. Oftentimes, when a developer tries to break into the space, they attempt to create a similar experience with their own twist on the formula. But it's kind of like that episode of How I Met Your Mother, where they're looking for the burger shop, and keep ending up at good burger shops, but not the burger shop they're looking for. Games can still break in and take the spot, of course. Marvel Rivals is a great example of that. Obviously it had the advantage of the Marvel IP, but also Overwatch's popularity has waned over the years, and that left an opening for a similar game to take its place, which Rivals clearly has with tens of thousands of daily active players. But those opportunities only come around every once in a while, and really can't be planned around. Just look at Valorant as an example. The game is well supported and has millions of monthly players. Player sentiment around the game is positive, and there's no sign that interest in the game is slowing. I've talked about Spectre Divide and Fragpunk a few times now on this show, two games that tried to take a bite out of Valorant's market. I correctly predicted that Spectre Divide wouldn't last long, and Fragpunk would be the more successful of the two. But even then, that game was seemingly struggling to maintain the player counts needed to sustain a free-to-play game for the long haul, despite having a few thousand daily active players. Pundits and social media bait have led a lot of people to believe that for a game to survive, it needs hundreds of thousands of daily active players. But that wasn't really ever the case before the free-to-play live service boom, that is reliant on games raking in millions of dollars through microtransactions, gacha mechanics, or predatory limited-time battle passes. The vast majority of multiplayer games have small, dedicated communities that number in the thousands, Something that you've more than likely never even thought about, as long as the game has active servers or matchmaking that finds you a game to play in a reasonable amount of time. A game I play regularly with my friends is Hell Let Loose. On average, the game has about 5,000 active players. While that may not seem like a lot, the servers on the game are always full, and we never have a problem finding a match to play. It was released almost 4 years ago, and is still being updated to this day with new content, maps, and tweaks to keep returning players engaged, and new players rolling in all the time. The game had a peak player count of 21,000 at its highest point, and I've never seen any stories about Hell Let Loose being a dead game. Hell Let Loose has clearly been a massive success for Team 17 and its original developers Black Matter, with over 130,000 reviews on Steam alone, and an estimated 4 million copies sold over its lifetime across all platforms. And this is primarily why developers are trending back towards the premium model. The free-to-play model relies on the game being able to bring in a massive audience to support it long term. A lot of the time, we see games with initial surges of interest when they're new, but they fail to retain players, and as player counts quickly dwindle, so does the time the studio has to turn things around. Bringing players back to a game after they've lost initial interest and moved on to something else or return to familiar grounds is an immense challenge for any developer, let alone after releasing a game for free and not receiving any money up front to recoup development costs. It's immensely risky for even the biggest developers in the world, and in a market as saturated and negatively viewed as the free-to-play market, it just seems like a losing proposition at this point to even try to break in. More developers seem to be choosing the premium model again, with more focused experiences that aren't meant to be played forever and don't need hundreds of thousands of daily active players to be supported. And thank God for that.
This video is brought to you by War-Torn, the single-player squad-based roguelite with deep replayability. War-Torn features a dynamic combat system where you harness elemental forces to your advantage, ignite tar to engulf enemies, amplify electric shocks with water, or douse flames to shift the tide of battle. It's like Captain Planet, but with significantly more goblin murder. A unique roguelite progression system and physics-driven destruction adds layer of depth and unpredictability to every skirmish. Between battles, build out your caravan with squads of various fantasy creatures and check in on them through your overworld map or cozy villa hub that's big enough for earth, fire, wind, water, and even heart. I guess. And all this is wrapped in a painterly aesthetic that is pretty enough for Gaia herself. Played by Whoopi Goldberg. That's true. So what are you waiting for? War-Torn is out now in early access on PC via Steam and the Epic Game Store. The power is yours! To check out the link in the description to learn more.